Oh, I went a little too slow. Man, the camera's not gonna pick it up, but that's so much fun. Yes. I mean, for a couple parts of this trail, I feel like we've just been charging it. Hey guys, I just got back from a killer weekend of riding down in sunny St. George, Utah. It's March 2021. The Pivot Trail 429 just came out. The new generation Trail 429 just came out, and I had so much fun riding it. I took the Switchblade down there with me so I could ride these things back to back. The Switchblade has had a soft spot in my heart ever since it came out because, you know, for those of you who don't follow the channel regularly, I used to own and ride the Pivot Switchblade, and so I just love that bike, and it climbs so well for a mid-travel 29er. So when a shorter travel 29-inch bike in the Trail 429 came out, and I saw that rear shock placement down here just like the Switchblade, I thought, man, this could be like a mini Switchblade. How rad would that be? I picked up these bikes from Salt Cycles in Sandy, Utah. They are a Pivot dealer. They've got these bikes in stock. So call Chris at Salt Cycles and tell him Yum Yum sent you, and he can customize the bike for you, start switching out parts, throw carbon wheels on there, whatever you need to do. He's one of the nicest guys in the world and easy to work with. So give him a buzz. I appreciate the support that they give me in this channel so I can keep doing this channel, you know, and posting these videos. But I picked these up and I took them down for the weekend. I loved riding them. I've been riding them on my lower trails. It's still, you know, it's March, and so I still got snow on the higher trails, but some of these lower trails are starting to dry out. I took the Trail 429 out again today. And in fact, I'm going to link today's ride on Strava if you guys are on Strava. So down below, you can click the link to Strava and go watch my ride. I really want to talk about speed today. I think the biggest factor and the biggest reason why you would decide to buy one bike over the other really comes down to the speed at which you ride most of the time. So in today's video, we're going to talk about how these bikes climb compared to each other, how they descend, which bike is right for you. I would imagine that's most likely why you're watching this video, is because you're trying to determine, should I get the new sexy hot offering from Pivot in the Trail 429, or should I stick with the tried and true trail bike here, the Switchblade? So hopefully I can kind of get you down the right road here and find out which bike's right for you. Let's talk about climbing real quick. The crazy part about these two bikes is in a really difficult technical situation on climbing where you have, so like a low traction type scenario, right? It's hard to find traction. It's difficult to get up. Both these bikes in those type of situations, honestly, probably climb about the exact same. That Switchblade has an unbelievable ability to just get up gnarly technical sections of trail. The thing that's going to give out are your quads, most likely. I mean, that bike will just keep finding traction. It's pretty impressive. The Trail 429 is no different. I would say they're about the same in terms of climbing ability and technical terrain. Now, where these bikes are different in a climbing scenario are longer sustained climbs that are not overly technical. It's not a real difficult situation. It's just sustained climbing. I would say this is probably just a little bit more efficient. It might come down really just to the shorter travel and the lighter weight, smaller bike, right? That's the other crazy thing about these bikes. They're almost mirrors of each other. I mean, the Switchblade is just a little bit longer wheelbase. The Switchblade has very similar 66 degree head tube angle. They both have a 75 or 75.5 degree seat tube angle. They both have these flip switches where you can go into the high or low setting in the Switchblade, or into the low or lower setting, which is how I've been riding on the Trail 429, the lower setting. So, and there's a link in the description down below to go over to Competitive Cyclists and click on the bikes and look at them and look at all the nerdy details, because I might get them wrong here. There's so much different things. The reach, I'm 5'8", riding size medium bikes, and they both feel great. You know, plenty of reach in this Trail 429, lots of room to move about the cockpit when you're riding. Anyway, I have specific videos on both these bikes, and I'll link them right up here. That way we don't get too far into the weeds on these bikes. But when you're climbing on the sustained climbs, and that's what I want to talk about on this bike, it just takes the edge off just a little bit. Nice job, Cav. You make it look easy, buddy. So if you're a guy who rides, 4 or 5 days a week, and one of these bikes is going to be your only bike, man, 4 or 5 days a week, this bike is going to feel less fatiguing to you. It's not going to wear you out quite as much as that Switchblade in every scenario, climbing especially, but even on the descents, this is just going to move about the trail just a little more easily. It's when you start, and this is a great segue into descending to talk about how these bikes descend, is it's when your speed starts getting higher that Switchblade becomes like more available to you, or more easy to move about. The Switchblade is more maneuverable once it gets over 20 and 25 miles per hour. If you're consistently over 25 miles per hour, and always kind of at some points of your trails hitting 30 miles per hour, the Switchblade's gonna be your bike, I really think so. But most people, myself included, my average speed on descents is not always over 25 or 30 miles per hour, right? I ride blue trails most of the time, and I would imagine most of you do as well, because those are the most available trails to us, right? So I would say descending, this bike is more fun and more maneuverable, more agile and easy to move around the trail than the Switchblade below 20 miles per hour. But once you get up to 25 miles per hour, that Switchblade says, okay, we're going mock chicken. I'm gonna wake up and I'm gonna do my thing. And it does, it really does. As soon as that speed starts getting a little higher, that bike wakes up, comes out of its shell, and just, it's incredible. It's very maneuverable. It's got incredible geometry, but you need to get going a little faster to get everything out of that bike. This bike, on the other hand, and the reason why I think speed is such a factor, I think the biggest factor when you're looking at buying a new bike or a bike is your speed. And your trail system and riding style are also important, but speed is so relevant, because if you're mostly riding trails like blue trails that we see a lot, and you really ought to click on the Strava link below this video, also in the description below. I have a Strava link for the ride that I did this morning on the Trail 429. My top speed was 30.9 miles per hour, I think. And on the main 8-minute descent on the trails that I rode today, about an 8-minute descent, my top speed was 24.9 miles per hour. My average speed was about 15 miles per hour. There's lots of turns. It's a multi-directional trail. You got to slow down for some people climbing up, So on a trail like today, in the video in the link for that Strava file below, this is the ideal bike for that type of trail. It's more fun to ride at 18, 20 miles per hour than that bike is. Now, if you're riding really steep, rooty stuff all the time with big jumps or consistent drops, or really shelfy drops, sections of trail, the Switchblade's going to handle that more easily, right? There's a couple sections of trail up here too, where the speed starts getting higher and you start really getting chattery, really chattery, chundery sections of trail. Yeah, the Switchblade smooths it out just a little bit more, but if it's not sustained for more than 45 seconds or something, this gets you right through it, off to the next part of the trail. If you're consistently riding this really chundery stuff, the Switchblade's gonna smooth out that trail a little bit better. One thing about both these bikes, and when I used to own the Switchblade, I had to mess with that rear shock a little bit with different volume spacers, because sometimes I'd feel like that rear end would get too chattery on me on really fast descents. Part of that problem, I think, is that I weigh 140 pounds. I'm 5'8", 140 pounds. I'm a little bit of a smaller rider for a guy, and I would imagine a heavier rider maybe would have an easier time with that rear shock. I don't experience that as much on this bike. Going through chattery sections, I don't feel like I'm getting too chattered and too bounced around at all. And like I said, I spent a lot of time on that bike. I've probably got over 400 or 500 miles on that bike. And so, yeah, that's just worth noting, I would say. I think when it comes down to the differences of these bikes and who the bike is for, and I've touched on this already, is the speed factor. Just be honest with yourself and say, what type of trails do I ride the most and at what speed? And I think that you would be very, very surprised, as I have been, at how capable this Pivot Trail 429 is. I mean, I was just absolutely charging down in southern Utah last weekend when we were down there with my buddy Kevin. I mean, he was riding his on one day he was riding the Switchblade, and the other day he was riding his personal Yeti SB150, which that bike, you can charge on that bike. And I was right there nipping at his heels on some pretty technical, demanding terrain with lots of 1.5 and 1 foot drops and lots of 8-inch, to a foot chattery sections. And this bike just charges. I mean, I was pushing as hard as I could on this, and I felt very composed, very comfortable, very well within my range of ability and comfort level at higher speeds on this bike, surprisingly so. It almost, I'm almost kind of shocked that Pivot has come out with an Enduro version of this. And if you're not familiar, and I'm sure you are, it comes with a DPX2 rear shock on the back of this bike, still at 120 mil in the rear. But then they bumped the fork up from 130 to 140, and instead of a Fox 34, they bump it up to a 10 mil higher to 140 and a Fox 36 on the front of this bike. And I haven't been personally, I haven't been super excited about that bike. Of course, I haven't ridden it yet. So a lot of you guys watching this video is like, man, should I be getting the Enduro? This is my answer. After riding these bikes back to back for 3 days down in St. George, and then riding them twice here on my local trail since I've been home, my answer is honestly, this bike is already so close in capability to that bike that I just don't know if I could see myself, building a case to purchase the Enduro model of this bike. And with that said, let me just mention this real quick. My good friend Luke rides an Ibis Ripley, 120 mil travel rear, just like this bike, right? And he put a 140 millimeter Fox 36 on the front of his Ripley. He's a bigger guy. He's over 6 feet tall and 220 pounds. And he absolutely loves that bike. And I've also got 2 or 3 other guys who I know are riding a Fox 36 on the front of their 120 bikes. So look, I haven't had a chance to ride the Enduro model yet, and I know you're probably wondering, man, where does the Enduro model stack up between these two? You guys, I have ridden so many bikes over the last couple of years, and I've spent a ton of time on that Switchblade, and I probably have over 100 miles now on this new Trail 429. And I used to own the previous model Trail 429, okay? I am telling you, there is not that much room between these two bikes. I mean, I guess there is enough room, otherwise Pivot wouldn't have offered the Enduro build on this bike. But man, this thing charges as is, and for most of the people that I see out on the trail, most of the people that I ride with even, I think this is the type of bike that's gonna get the work done on your daily rides. If you're consistently, and this is the last thing I'm going to say, if you're consistently going over 25, 30 miles per hour on your trails, you're hitting jumps, you're hitting drops, you want to send it, you're not worried about breaking your collarbone, that's your bike. Go send it all day long. But for the rest of humanity, I think Pivot has made probably the bike of the year with this bike. It's just so good everywhere. It does everything so good. It's a little bit lighter weight. It's a little bit less fatiguing than the Switchblade, and I think you can go and just absolutely charge it, get to that Bach chicken speed that we all kind of want to get to, but we're a little nervous to keep pushing. This will get there. You can kind of get to the limits of this bike and really ride this bike hard. This bike, sometimes I feel like the bike's taking me for a ride just a little bit, because that bike is so capable. This one, I feel like the pilot, not the passenger, and so my pick is this. That's what I would do. I hope this video was helpful for you guys today. If you have more questions or comments, leave it in the description or the comment section just below this video. Hit the like button, subscribe to my channel. I'm going to keep up this work of posting videos. And for all you people who don't have a chance to demo right now, I mean, with the coronavirus, it's just been a struggle even for me to get bikes. I can only imagine what you guys are dealing with not being able to get bikes right now. So I'm trying to do as many videos as I can to help you guys have an on-the-bike experience through this YouTube channel, kind of a test drive that I bring you guys along for, and then this review here at the end next to the fence, and give you guys kind of my experience and my opinion on these bikes. This is a cool bike. I'm stoked on it. I love the Switchblade. Just find out which bike's best for you by really starting with your speed, your riding style, and then your terrain. Those are the 3 things I would focus on most when you're looking for your next bike. Anyway, thanks for watching, guys. We'll see you in the next video next Sunday. And yeah, we'll see you out there.